Okay. I saw the Twitter. I saw the Twitter artists. They were drawing the anime girl. They draw
No,
the girl from Genshin Impact, and they
no,
had
we like
huge
our
boobs.
no, now Trump. Last,
Joe,
when I
why
was
don't you
playing
just
that.
shut your damn mouth, huh?
Oh, you shut up, man! I'm trying to tell you about Genshin Impact. Last I was playing, I put $500 in the game, and I got this lowly character, and she is just so cute, believe me. And I
Whatever,
said,
Joe.
Corn Pop, I'm gonna call you Corn Pop, and then I'm gonna smell your hair. That's gonna smell like caramel, and I
Whatever, Joe.
take care of it.
I saw the art on Twitter, and they drew her boobs, and they were big, and they said her boobs were too big. They said her boobs were too big, and they
Well,
weren't.
that's because it's unrealistic.
And they weren't. We like our boobs big in America.
Where are her
Okay?
organs, Donald? You can't have any. If you
Listen
if you
here,
don't have
Joe.
a big belly, you can't have room for your
Joe.
organs, and then your
Joe.
bones will come out of your.
We want the boobs big. Okay? We want our boobs big. This is
No,
America, and we have big boobs. Okay?
well, not in my America. Not in Joe Biden's America.
Thanks, Joe. Yep, that's the situation we're in now. Every week I see
Inflation.
inflation, but not in any of the good ways, yeah.
Inflation is so bad. If you want to know more, look up furry inflation on Google image search for more information.
Furry inflation. They call it that
Because of
because
the trend
there's
lines, it looks furry.
fuzzy logic in the inflation trends, yeah. Anyway,
That's right. The fuzzy line. The fuzzy line that
so
controls our lives.
that's true. Yep. It do be like that for real. No cap. Okay. Um
Okay.
yeah,
So I found a video for
okay.
everyone to watch.
Let's get to our oops, wrong one.
So this is
Let's
from
sneak
Business
peek.
Insider. It was from Business Insider.
I was watching Business Insider,
Anyway,
and
here
they
we
had
go.
a video. There were cockroaches. Oh,
No,
crickets.
they're
Okay.
crickets. Yep, crickets.
I can barely hear it though, but it's okay. We have the subtitles on this one.
I don't think we really need to
Is
understand
this
what they're talking
um
about.
is this the crickets for like our new chow that we're all going to eat?
Yeah, the
Our
new slop.
our meat.
That's our new slop that you're looking at. See, they
They'll
call them
put
condos because they like to pretend this is cute.
it appeals to your like our Bay Area. Oh my gosh.
Can't even taste the cricket. It tastes so good. Ew.
That was a cake.
It's
It looked like they put them in. They'll put them in your gourmet Starbucks.
See, notice that it's Business Insider who made this video. As in, there's people who are investing in this.
That's true, yeah. As opposed to you would see this kind of thing on I don't know BuzzFeed usually. Like, oh, look at this cool cricket farm.
Well, I drive this home every time the topic comes up, but the reason that they're really pushing this is because it costs next to nothing to make this.
Yeah.
So, like, it's the profit overhead would be immense compared to like normal farming that we're used to.
Okay. So you might push this just because you're invested in it, so you could have really high returns.
Yep. Um, there is a problem where a lot of these bugs have parasites, and we could be creating a new vector for diseases for ourselves if we
Hey,
adopt something
hey,
like
man.
this. But
Hey, trust the science, okay? The experts all
just
agree. 9 out of 10 doctors agree. How long is this?
it's 3 minutes.
Okay. I
I think we get the point, though.
yeah, I think that's the basic idea. Yeah, they're gonna be pushing this now. I assume some inner city liberals are going to fall for it.
I mean,
Honestly, it's kind of funny.
like, I don't know. When you look at a mass of moving insects, I don't really feel like, that looks good. Let me
No.
get a handful of that, you
I had
know?
try it once. I think somebody had like dried cricket snacks one time and offered it to me. I don't think I ate them though. I didn't. I did not care enough to try it to see if it was good, or to say that I did it. Um, but yeah, it's like it's obviously gross. Like
Right.
you can kind of understand that intuitively. That's kind of
Well,
that's what I
I think
perceive.
they would probably try and say that's like society that told us to
Yeah,
think that's gross, but
you
I
know,
think it might be more like a biological, visceral thing that's just built into people, so who knows?
I was, yeah, of course it is. Yeah, and that's a thing the left talks about a lot. Like that philosophy professor I keep bringing up, who I would always argue with. The thing that they believe. I think we were talking about economy, and I was talking about how capitalism is an organic system where like it allows uh, people to like move in their natural order, where they create their own thing and like have their own organic system in their communities that's like built from the ground up. Um,
Right.
and he said to that, oh, and I also said that socialism is contrived. It's like organized from the top down, from a small group of people at the top. And he said that both are contrived because they're both based on like things, standards and rules that people created. So both of them are contrived and neither are organic. And that is a pattern in leftist and progressive ideology, that they don't think there are things that are natural, that are real. They only think, they think like if you create something that's fake and it's close enough that you can't tell the difference, then it's exactly the same. And like things that you think are real are just things that were taught to you by something or other. So
But what is natural? Because, I mean, when people talk about nature, they usually just imagine, like trees and animals and forests and things, but that's not really maybe how we should think about it. Because you could also consider nature to just be like the natural progression of things, which
um,
is maybe a more historical definition of what nature is, but maybe that's the correct way to think about it.
I guess it depends on the context, because I suppose people would invoke natural in places where it doesn't apply. But, like, for example, in this context, we're talking about you have a natural reaction of disgust to this, this cricket thing.
Hmm.
And I would say that that's biological and not taught to you by society. You could be trained out of it if you're from a culture or a family, or if people around you encouraged you to try it and you did, then you could acquire traits
Maybe that's what
out
we're
of it.
banking on is that people can be trained out of this behavior.
Yeah, just I guess though their core belief though is that is everything is nurture and nothing is nature, and so
Right.
you can just reprogram the human brain however you want.
I mean, arguably though, like when we eat meat, we don't like see the process of preparation for that meat most of the time, unless you're a hunter.
I guess so.
You probably don't really know unless you've leaked it out.
Yeah. But
What the
like,
butchering process looks like, that sort of thing. But
yeah, and there is a lot of gross stuff they do that people don't know about. But just the idea of eating meat, though, like people have been eating meat since forever, and animals know to eat meat without anybody telling them to. Um,
right,
or carnivores, anyway. Um, that
which we are.
no one.
Just look at your teeth. If you don't believe me, you have a couple sharp teeth. They're not for eating apples, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, humans have been omnivorous since we've been standing, I'm pretty sure. So,
Before that, actually.
yeah, I assume that's the case. Aren't most chimps omnivorous?
Yeah, they actually go out and they will eat monkeys.
Yeah, there's a lot
So,
of them uh, are shoot, what's the word? They eat themselves.
uh,
Anyway,
yeah, I know what you're talking about.
so
Cannibals.
yeah, a lot of them do cannibalism.
I mean, a lot of humans did cannibalism for a while.
Yeah, yeah,
Those
humans will eat
pesky
anything.
Europeans
We like to
conquered the
experiment.
world.
Uh, yeah, so I'd say meat comes naturally to eating us, to us eating it, um, and nothing eats insects other than like small mammals and reptiles and
Birds too,
birds.
but
Yeah, so we like I don't think any primitive group of humans had a pattern of eating insects. Maybe somebody could prove me wrong on that.
they
Maybe there are some
do
exotic
it.
tribes that did.
Yeah. So India and Africa, but it's not like it's usually a supplemental because they can't get enough normal
Yeah,
meat or vegetables.
I know
So,
nobody would actually choose insects over normal meat.
right.
Anyway, okay, well,
Okay. We
enough
have
about
some.
bugs. Eat the bugs. You will eat the bugs, and you'll own nothing, and you'll be happy. They'll keep you in a
Okay.
trance state in your pod.
So
And
4 days ago, Lainey Molnar made this video. Also,
let's talk
notice how
about
tight
Laney.
that ring is on her thumb. Look at that. Those are some tight rings. Anyway,
She does. Yeah, that is. She even has
P.S.
a
I didn't
tattoo on her
think
thumb.
this needed clarifying, but this is about radicalization by hate groups.
Nazis,
Neo-Nazis,
incels,
incels are hate groups, Andrew
Andrew.
Tate followers,
Who's that?
etc. Not, I don't know. Ending got cut. Its hate can never win over love. Okay.
Let's talk about Laney. We haven't done any Laney bits for a while. Okay. No male role models. No emotions. No emotional regulation. No feelings allowed. I don't know if people can hear it at all. It sounds really quiet to me.
It it doesn't matter. They can read it. Hmm.
Muscles are bad.
Muscles are bad and
Yeah,
sex is bad.
if you have muscles, I'm sure she won't say sex is bad. It's good as long as it's with some random minority at the club.
Scapegoat punching bags.
Can you show me a source on that? Can you show me a source? I want to see your sources.
The
I'm
sources
I'm
you
sure
made it up.
I'm sure there's some. I'm sure they have some papers from UC Berkeley or something like that on this.
You know, if you all just use each other as a source, then you all have a source. Is
Yeah,
that
that's
how it
true.
works?
Yep, they can just go in a circular. They can make a circle of sources. BuzzFeed quotes a Washington Post article, uh, and then Huffington Post quotes BuzzFeed, and then Washington Post says that they were backed up by by Huffington Post. Is
Hmm.
that it?
Yep.
Hate can never win over love. Hear that? So if you want to be a toxic
See,
man, toxic
you know,
masculine man,
people wouldn't get radicalized if they just were able to express their emotions, you know?
they were, yeah, that's why people are that's why people are conservative because of being because they
Like
couldn't express their
agitate.
emotions and they're angry.
Who is agitate? This is the first time I watched that video too.
I
He's
assume
a kickboxer and streamer. He's an American-British social media
I
influencer.
yeah, I assume this is somebody who like Instagram people would know about.
Yeah.
So she probably saw
Topics
his
such as
stuff.
sexual assault have been subject to controversy, described as misogynistic. Okay, well,
Yeah, okay. That's probably why. Um, it's because it's because of toxic masculinity. They taught him to be, they taught him toxic masculine ideals like strength and honor, and it made him into an incel and a Nazi, and that's
incels are a radical hate group. If you can't get laid, you're a radical. You need to read rules for radicals.
I'm sure they have. I'm sure they have incels as like a domestic terrorist organization at the FBI or whatever. Anyway,
Mm,
I couldn't hear a lot of
well, they
what
think
she was saying, but I got the gist of it. Basically, um, men are all angry and can't express
it's
their
weird.
emotions, and so they become incels.
It's weird. When women try to describe what it's like to be a man
Yeah.
to men.
Well, they hear
This is
great.
how you are.
They hear great role models like Lainey talk about it on Instagram, a scientific source. I will.
Yep.
I'll I'll give them a slight olive branch on this. That maybe I'd agree to some extent that men, well, some men, like this isn't like as a pattern of everybody, but a lot of men, maybe particularly guys who I've known are from like the South or kind of the kind of country or Bible Belt esque people, maybe more traditional people. Um, don't like for guys to do certain things, like if you like wear something pink or like if you talk too much about like a relationship problem you're having or something like that, or if you show emotional weakness, they won't like it and they'll like make fun of you or something. Um,
Right.
I would say, yeah, that's a bad thing, and you shouldn't be ashamed of if you like disco or if you want to eat like a strawberry sorbet at a restaurant or something. Like you shouldn't um, be ashamed of like what are your friends going to say about it, or like they gonna call you a fag or whatever. Um, you know, like it's a cultural trend just doesn't change overnight though. I like they're gonna say, oh, um, like if people do that to you, they need to just not do that, and you need to like tell them like, hey, no, you can't do that. Really, that's my solution to it is like I just wear it with pride. If I'm doing something like let's see what's the thing I do. I like anime. My and maybe more traditional like older like boomer age men would see like if I'm watching K-On! Or whatever, my dad would probably be like, hey, that looks gay. Stop doing that. And I'd just be like, I like it, so so suck it. Um,
Yeah, sure.
so it requires some uh,
personal strength on your part to be able to resist a cultural trend, you know. So
Right.
I wouldn't say
And the person who's entirely dictated by personal or not personal, social norms is, I don't know, they're just not, they're just another brick in the wall. Like, I don't know. I don't even think I don't know if I've met someone like that in reality.
like
Like, could you
what.
imagine a guy like that who's like, well, maybe you could, but like every single thing he does is dictated by not his own personal choice, but like what people want him to be. Like, I watch football because that's the normal thing for guys to do. I wear
Yeah, yeah, you'd be a real pathetic person if you just like everything you do is the stuff that other people do, and it would suck as well. Like you can't listen to the music you like or watch the shows you like,
yeah.
do the stuff you like. So I guess you bring it on yourself if you like that. Um, yeah, I don't think in most senses I think traditional masculinity is a good thing. And once again, it's a biological thing, not a social thing. Like how young boys are more inclined to do physical games and to compete and maybe to push each other around a little bit. That is absolutely biological. That is not a cultural thing that's being forced on them externally. Um, so not not saying you shouldn't stop your kids if they're fighting or whatever like that, but like boys are inclined to proving themselves, to showing strength, and grown men and young men admire a sense of strength and a sense of honor in each other. And I think those are both good things: physical strength and emotional strength and a sense of honor and a desire to um, like make a place for yourself in the world, make a name for yourself are all good good senses of are good traits of masculinity. Just you shouldn't you shouldn't I guess reform your personality to fit into what other people expect of you, which they would probably say, "Oh, that's all we're that's." Sometimes when I got in this argument, like on Facebook and stuff, girls would be like, "Well, that's literally just what toxic masculinity is," and it's not. It's not. They want you to be a soy boy. They want you to eat the bugs. Okay. They want you to drink the soy. Okay.
They watch it too. I think, well, I don't know if a lot of it's malicious, really, but because a lot of it could be explained with like people want to make money. Here's one explanation, and it's like they're using it to make money.
Which people are you talking about?
People who might be in charge of like politics or the media or banks,
Wait,
like,
are we still talking about like toxic masculinity?
uh, well, just like eating bugs,
Oh, okay.
drinking the soylent,
All right.
because really there's money to be made. So if there's money
Um,
to be made, there's shilling to be had.
the Soylent thing, yeah, yeah, they can make money off of that. I think though there's a push by these globalist entities to um, make men less masculine and make women less feminine.
Mm.
So while they're encouraging men to act like act like these inner city bug men soy boys. They're also telling women to be, um, harsh and uncaring and like aggressive, and like to be angry at men. Uh, Men as well. I think they want women to hate men. They want men to hate women. They're pushing that from the opposite end as well. Um,
Why would that be? What would their motive be for that?
To destroy the family, I think.
Why?
They want less nuclear families, and they want more people hooking up at clubs and girls getting pregnant out of wedlock, and single parent households.
Yeah, but why would they want that?
Why do they
What's
want
in it for
that?
them?
Um,
Yeah.
to what was the word I was trying to think? I couldn't think of the right word. Um, to usher in the new world order. Um, people, well, if we're talking about families, um, something you see in single parent families. I don't know if this was all single parent families or specific single mother. It's usually single mother. Like 95% of the time, it's if there's a single parent, it's the mother because the dad was a loser and he got her knocked up and then he ran away. Um, well, and women often get more custody when they break up. But anyway, uh, you have young men raised by single mothers in particular, and they don't develop very well mentally. They are the vast majority of inmates in prison. They're far more likely to do drugs, and once again to be involved in crime. Um, anyway, the point of all this is you have a populace of weak people who are easy to control. Um, People who are mindless consumers. I think, if you're in the top of one of these companies, or one powerful people in the top of like investment firms or in governments, um, you well, first of all, if you're a politician, you want people who are easy to manipulate, like people who believe you easily, who watch um, stuff like CNN and believe it easily, who are easy to lie to, who are subject more to the state rather than to their own family,
Right.
and will vote for whoever you tell them to. And like if you get their favorite celebrity to say, oh, you should vote for this person, then they'll do it. Um, and if you're a person at the top of a big corporation, then you want people who are easy to manipulate into becoming mindless consumers. And you see this kind of consumerism, surprisingly, in a lot of the lower class, despite having less spare money to use recreationally. See a lot of drug use, alcohol use, and I would say they're more prone to we were talking about this last week as well, how they often eat fast food exclusively. I would say that they're far more prone to, being subject to mindless consumerism of whatever the popular thing is.
Yeah.
I
Well,
think the end game is kind of having sort of a communist-esque, uh,
having
state
serfs
state
is
state
basically what you're
organized
saying.
society. Lots of people who aren't for themselves, who aren't self-sufficient. Lots of people who are dependent
So
on the
you're
state.
trying to say that if people are more dependent on the state, then they'll be easier to manipulate by the state and therefore easier to control.
Yeah, yeah. That's and these things all kind of tie into each other. Um, have Being able to control people, being able to make money off of people, um, getting rid of traditional values. Remember, Oh shoot, what was his name? I've got to definitely got to say his name if I'm going to talk about him. The Russian guy who talks about subversion. There's this KGB defector who came to the U.S. and oh crap! I don't have my external drive plugged in. Yuri,
Bezmenov?
yeah, Bezmenov.
Maybe I could.
Yeah, Yuri Bezmenov. Yeah, definitely look up Yuri Bezmenov or Yuri Bezmenov subversion, and he talks about this a whole lot. So how there are very definite steps to subverting a society, gaining absolute totalitarian power over it, and he describes it. Basically, the 4 steps are demoralization, and then destabilization, and then crisis, and then normalization. And we're mostly, I would say, in the demoralization phase right now, and it amounts to taking away a sense of pride in whatever creed you belong to, including like the country, getting rid of religions, having a lot of sexual depravity, and kind of the thing we were talking about in general, having people live in squalor, having them have no sense of self-worth. Then after that is destabilization, where they topple the government, or well, that would be the crisis, but they lead into toppling the government, which you kind of see with the stuff going on with these riots, like when there's something with some cop and some black guy, and then they set the whole country on an uproar and have them riot and destroy stuff. You'll probably see more of that in the future when they're moving into the destabilization phase. But there aren't hard stops and starts to each phase. They kind of meld into each other.
Let's see. That's a lot to take in.
Yeah, anyone listening, definitely go listen to Yuri Bezmenov's lectures. Very interesting stuff. And that was the Soviet Union, of course. But it's a recursive pattern. They want the same pattern that happened in the Soviet Union to happen here. Presumably a lot of the same people who were the ones who created the Soviet Union, like who spurred the Bolshevik Revolution, for example.
I don't know who that is.
Oh no one in particular. I'm sure if you looked it up and read about it in somewhere other than Wikipedia, I don't think it would be any particular group. Just so people know, though.
That's so liminal core. That's liminal space.
Whoa, this is a liminal space.
This game is liminal space.
This is kind of guilty of the thing we were talking about a couple weeks ago, where there's lots of flashy colors. Right now I'm looking at it and I see blue, purple, green, yellow, orange, red, the whole rainbow. That's the whole rainbow on the screen at the same time. I guarantee if you saw the character concept art for this, it would look like the stuff we were describing as well.
I don't know. This game has an annoying narrator, and it was really praised when it came out for that narrator. And he comments on what you do, but it's highly annoying.
Highly annoying.
Highly annoying. It's like,
this is highly annoying.
He's shooting and he's hitting them with this hammer. It's like, yeah.
Oh, he describes what you're doing?
Yeah.
He has the audio turned off right now.
That's because
That
I can handle it, but
that is highly annoying.
highly annoying. I can't bear to hear
I
the
can't bear these
narrator.
narrations. Oh my. He's
The
narrating
narrations of
again.
this midwit, I can't bear them.
I don't want any narrators on my manor. Have him expelled immediately.
Have him expelled.
So it looks like they're having a Congress hearing on Roe v. Wade, which I don't think they can do anything about it, but they're having themselves a good old hearing, and they got their soapboxes going, and they got their media, and lots of politicians are telling them what for. They're telling those chuds what for. Kamala Harris, the government should not be telling an individual what to do. Really? Is that so? The government shouldn't tell an individual what to do. Is Kamala Harris a libertarian now?
Yeah, she wants to abolish the government.
Does that mean we can have whatever guns we want?
No. That means
Why not? That's an
that we have to
individual
abolish the
right,
government.
isn't it? Why should the government tell me what I can do with my property?
I mean, the government is in charge of everyone. They're the king of the servants.
But
We're the servant
they're
class, and we get to tend the fields,
they're
and then they get to make the rules, and we follow the rules. That's how it works. Okay.
rulemaking is hard work, man. All these people
Yeah.
in the government who have never had a real job before, and like they were their first job out of whatever like Ivy League college they got written into by their parents was working as a secretary for some senator, and then they became like a state legislator, and then they joined the Senate, and then later they became a vice president, and then they got an election rigged and became president. Like that's hard work, and no one should be telling them that they aren't they aren't working really hard and they don't deserve the money that they have.
Ooh, that's so sad.
It was so sad. I saw Liz Cheney, and she said, "Donald, I can't get elected. Help me get elected." And I said, "No, Liz. Just you go back to Wyoming. Go back to your stable." And she did, and it was a great stable.
It was a great stable, believe me. Kill that thing. Kill the machete thing. It was so sad.
What else do we got? I'm looking through. 90% of my recent videos from subscriptions are Forbes News. They upload a new thing like every half hour.
Forbes, huh? I don't think I follow Forbes.
They're alright. They, I would say, are one of the more neutral ones, which is hard to come upon. Nobody ever stays neutral forever. They always figure out either what their current audience is, or what audience they should appeal to, what they should pander to, or their owners tell them what audience they should pander to.
Right.
And then they do that.
Our owners. They don't like
Sky
what you
News.
say. They'll just tug on the leash a little bit, you know. You know what I'm saying?
I'm surprised Sky News in Australia is actually able to exist. Same with anytime I hear a conservative who's from England, I'm shocked that they aren't in jail yet for some reason or another. Like they haven't.
Well, really, realistically, there's quite a few conservative people over in England, but we know England through the media, and so we know it through that bias that whatever media is portraying England has.
I suppose it is a fact that a lot of people like get arrested for like saying hate speech on the internet, though. So for whatever it's actually like, they have a lot of kind of 1984-esque stuff that is being put into their law, that has been in their law for a few years.
I hate this game. This is like a game you'd play in the computer lab because you're bored and you have nothing else to do.
Oh, that's the game I'm gonna play as well. Actually, I'll talk about it when I start the.
Computer lab game.
Yeah, yeah. I have this game that we used to play on the old Macintosh computers from the early 2000s. I'm not sure which one it would have been. But yeah, it was in the computer lab at my elementary school. Here's one I was interested in talking about. They're talking about how DeSantis will never surrender to woke ideology. So I think we've maybe touched on DeSantis before, but didn't talk a whole lot about him. Like he's generally cool. I like him more than the average Republican politician, but there's a lot of media talking about how he's going to be the Republican frontrunner in 2024. Did he even say if he's going to run for president yet?
I don't think he did.
Okay. Well, I guess Trump hasn't said it directly, although he's pretty heavily implied it. But
I think they want him to. Or they want DeSantis.
The left does?
Yep.
I'm sure they would prefer DeSantis. Yeah. I think they want somebody who's more of a Washington person, not an outsider, because their problem with Trump is he didn't have any chips in the game for them to capitalize on.
They investigated him like 20 times.
Yeah, now he's in an endless investigation, and they've got the latest witch hunt of some made-up bullshit that they figured out.
They'll never run out. They'll always find something to.
Yeah, they'll find something else. They probably just want to keep harassing him until he gives up and doesn't involve himself in politics anymore. Until he has them all killed. That'll be the day.
We need to abolish the FBI for their many crimes against the United States. And every former FBI agent will be executed.
The crowd applauds wildly.
How come China didn't shoot down Nancy Pelosi's plane? They promised us this, and we said, go ahead.
Did they say they were going to?
They heavily implied it, so they didn't.
Oh,
know.
Okay. What's wrong, China? You're not a man of your word. Are you a paper tiger like everyone calls you? Come on. Or what are you, scared?
They're so scared.
They were so scared.
Yeah, so anyway, DeSantis, most of the people who are telling me that DeSantis is going to be the Republican nominee are the same people who thought that Ted Cruz would be back in 2016.
Okay.
Regardless of what polls say, you can kind of gauge who has the most people talking about them, who has the most social momentum. And I'm pretty sure nobody is going to overtake Trump if he runs again. Because Trump, everyone on the right loves him. Almost everyone on the right. And they're generally so-so about everybody else. So
Yeah. Generally. But, ooh, the mean tweets. Ooh, I can't handle
oh,
mean
the
tweets.
bus.
Ooh.
Yeah, I said the bus as the thumbnail. Oh, he said the thing on the bus.
The
Oh,
bus.
did you know that
The
Trump?
bus incident.
The bus incident when he was on the short bus with what's his name, whoever that guy was,
Ben Shapiro.
with Ben Shapiro. He coerced Ben Shapiro into his misogynistic conversation, and Ben was like, I agree with you, Donald. I think that's true. A woman will do anything that you want if you're a star. I would know. My wife's a doctor.
They would know.
And then and then the video came out, and Ben Shapiro's career was ruined forever, and he deleted his website.
That's right.
Oh, they're starting to slap Steven Crowder on the wrist on YouTube. I think he can't stream anymore, but he was doing a stream on Rumble instead, and it got quite a few viewers.
Yeah, that's happened lots of times though, so I don't know. He always makes a big deal about it whenever it happens.
It would be really great if we had a mass YouTube exodus, but it would be hard to get enough people to agree to it at the same time. The problem is they chip away slowly at individuals, and you don't have enough people agree to do it together. If you had people do it together, then it would actually have a big impact.
Well, I don't. The thing is, I don't see there being any incentive to do it, other than like I was already banned from YouTube, so I might as well go.
Yeah, that was
One of the alternatives.
how BitChute was. I think like it was basically just the dumping ground for anything, for people and videos who got banned from YouTube. None of them have a really. Here we go with organic stuff again. They don't have an organic community. It's all like all of them are just not YouTube.
The parking lot for YouTube. It's the overflow.
The overflow.
Parking.
Yeah.
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 It was so sad.
I was on BitChute and I saw a video about the Weimar Republic, and I said, "This is anti-Semitic. We love Israel. We love our greatest ally. And we're gonna keep that Iron Dome around Israel.
No matter what cost.
We're gonna keep paying for it. If it costs $100 billion, we're still gonna save Israel. 'Cause they're our greatest ally. They're the best. Are you the best, Israel? They're the best."
They're our greatest ally because we give them money. And we give them money because they're our greatest ally.
Well, if we didn't give them money, they might not be our greatest ally anymore. They wouldn't let us put our troops,
Who would be our greatest ally then?
Where would we put all our bases to fight our important wars that we totally need in the Middle East?
Yeah.
Who's our second greatest ally? Well,
Yeah.
I don't know. We wouldn't want to put anybody in front of Israel, but I guess it'd have to be Ukraine.
Ukraine.
Slava Ukraini.
Ukraini. Hey, Ukraini.
We need to. Hey, Ukraini.
Ukraine.
We need to support Ukraine.
Why?
We need to protect Ukraine because they're our second greatest ally. And Russia is coming in. They're committing terrorism in Ukraine. They just went and they attacked Ukraine for no reason. And
Right.
we need to save. We need to save them. We need to give them $40 billion. And we need to give our greatest ally maybe more than that, maybe 50 billion. That could save countless lives, but is it enough?
We need to get, probably we should be working in the trillions at this point. I mean,
there's
come on, it's 2022.
Hey, it's 2022. Give us more monies. I'm gonna call my lawyer.
Lawyer. It's supposed to be shooting these. Can't. Oh. I'll call my lawyer on you.
I'll call my lawyer. Israel will call their lawyers. They have plenteous lawyers in Israel. You owe us that money. Give it to me. I was curious if it would drop with you still on it. Do you have to shoot those? Will bad things happen if you don't shoot them?
That just determines how good of a prize I get. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. Who knows? Fucked it up. I fucked it up.
What else?
I am so fucked up. I'm so fucked up. Oh, that's a really good game.
They passed the Inflation Reduction Act. So I guess inflation will reduce now. And that's how it works.
Why has gas gone down? Are they subsidizing it?
Oil and gas. Oh, actually, there's something we're going to talk later about China. Interesting. China's economy is having some issues. Was it the bank? I think that it was the bank. Is cutting.
What bank?
One of the Chinese ones. Oh, what was it? Anyway, they're cutting oil prices in China, and so competitors also have to lower them. And that may be part of what's influencing it.
I see.
I'm not sure if there's anything else significant. I'm sure Biden's people will say that it's because of like this this bill that they passed, I suppose. We're gonna talk some sense into Putin. I went to Russia and I told Putin, you better lower those prices or you're gonna get it. And now they're lowering.
Sock you in the mouth.
And so I'll do a push-up contest with you, Putin. Which I can still do a lot of push-ups. So you better cut those oil prices. And he did. And so you should re-elect me in 2024.
That's what I like. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I don't know. What else happened in the world today?
I'm looking.
This Cheney was fired. That's probably the funniest thing.
Oh yeah,
The funniest part is that she
that.
said she wants to run for president.
Did she? That's funny. Yeah. So
More Republicans.
they had
Cheney.
a lot of state primaries, and Wyoming, as anyone would have predicted, their Republican Party is not nominating Liz Cheney as their nominee. And so she.
Why would they? It'd be suicide.
Yeah, probably if they did, they'd probably encourage a whole bunch of Republicans to vote for whatever third party candidate ran. But anyway,
And then
yeah,
that would just be a win for the Democrats at that point. But
maybe, yeah, there's like the problem with if you you nominate somebody else and the one who is like the expected nominee runs as an independent, then you can potentially split the vote. It probably wouldn't matter in a deep red state like Wyoming, though, because they just don't have any Democrat voters there. There are no big cities in Wyoming. There's like Cheyenne, I think, is the biggest one, and it's still not very big.
we're gonna flip the vote in Wyoming.
Yeah,
Gonna turn it blue.
we're gonna send all our California people to Wyoming. They're gonna move out to Wyoming and work their remote jobs.
Wow, it's so cheap out here.
Oh yeah.
House.
We got to talk about the Mexico thing after this. So
I thought we did.
did we already
Yeah, the
last week?
Californians moving to Mexico because of the low rent. Yeah.
Oh, whatever. I don't think our 2 or 3 viewers will care. um, so yeah, so they're kicking Liz out, giving her the cowboy boot, and hopefully there will be more states following suit. Cough, Utah, cough. I'm pretty sure Romney is probably toast. I don't think any conservatives like him anymore. Anytime I hear anybody talking positively about him, it's a liberal.
It's always a good sign when
oh,
the opposing party talks positively.
Yeah, and someone's like, "Hey, he's really reasonable. Look at this thing that he did the other day." It's always a liberal. Look at this thing that he's proposing. It's really good. I like his plan. It's always a liberal.
Yeah.
So I expect he's probably toast in 2024. I assume he'll do some bullshit to try to recover his reputation, but your actions speak louder than words. Hopefully all the Mormon boomers in Utah will take a hint now and realize that he's not their savior. He's not their wholesome good Christian church buddy.
Church buddy.
And give him the boot in 2 years.
How do Mormons feel about Botox, huh?
Botox?
Botox.
I don't know. Is there a is it against their religion? Huh?
Maybe.
It should be. There should be more religions that say that Botox is satanic.
And it kind of is. No, it's not.
You're
It
fighting.
is poisoning your own face, though, so it's stupid to do.
You're introducing external, unnatural chemicals to your body, and going against God's will of the natural process of aging. So if you're doing Botox, then you're inviting the devil into your life. That's what I'll tell all of the middle-aged Mormon moms in Utah.
Well, I know that I mean, I say that, but it's like there is in a lot of Christian religions, there's something against like vanity. So like the Amish one rule they have is they're not supposed to wear buttons on their clothes because it's
Buttons.
yeah.
Don't most old clothes have buttons? What do they use instead of buttons? Clips.
I don't know.
They have a clip where the button is. They
They
tie
use
lace. They
they tie
tie
it
laces.
together.
All right.
Yeah.
I
it's a real
mean,
rule.
that's a little extreme. I'd say that's good in some cases, though. Like, they should discourage people from wearing, like, I don't know. I don't want to say, like, being into fashion is a bad thing, but people who make a point of wearing really fancy clothes, I would say that is a bad thing. Like, that's being vain, trying to make yourself, trying to seek praise from people around you. Watch out for my spin attack. But yeah, so a bunch of Californians are moving to Mexico, and they just work their whatever remote job they're doing. They're doing some remote IT job. Maybe some
their
of them.
job is they SSH into a Linux web server, and then they update the Linux web server. So they type sudo apt update.
Here I
And then
am.
sudo apt upgrade,
Here
and
I
then that's
am
their
at
job.
my $50K a year IT job. Some Valley girl taking a selfie at Starbucks. Just doing my IT job. Just working with Linux. I work with Linux. It's like this nerd program that nerds use. And now I'm moving to Mexico, and I'm here in Mexico. Hola, hola, amigos.
Hola, amigos.
A lot of them don't speak English, though, which that's kind of, I don't know, that's kind of weird.
They refuse to start speaking Spanish once they're there.
Yeah, a lot of these people who love diversity, I think they talk a whole lot about like cultural appropriation, but they seem to want versions of foreign cultures that are kind of I don't know, cookie cut to fit into Western culture, basically.
Oh,
Yeah, I don't understand. Nobody in Mexico watches. Actually, no, that's not true. In Mexico, they watch all the American shows. They watch all the American shows in Mexico. They also
in
they most
Spanish?
they dubbed in Spanish. Yeah.
Dubbed in Spanish.
They they like their telenovelas more though, which those are always fun. They're soap operas, Mexican soap operas.
Ooh.
Maybe Californians who are moving to Mexico can get into soap operas. Start watching the soap operas.
Anonymous?
It's been about an hour. Whenever you get bored of this game, which I expect has happened already.
Okay, I'm bored of this game.
Lay kills self.
Kill less self.
Kill Lay self.
Go to the hell.
Lay devil is there.
The devil is not like quirky. I don't know.
Lay devil isn't just like he was in Lay South Park, and he tortures me for all eternity.
No, not South Park.
I don't know. What do they have a devil character in? Big Mouth.
Yeah, that's one.
Big
Actually,
Mouth has one.
I've never seen Big Mouth.
I've never watched
I mean,
it.
there's
I
devil,
I watched a
demonic
couple.
looking characters. So
They all
they're
look
devil.
like demons in Big Mouth.
Yeah. I don't know. There's some live action show, I'm sure. Sandman, maybe. That's a new one. That's on Netflix.
Netflix.
You like to watch Netflix.
All right. I'm switching to my game. Okay, so I was talking about this game a little bit. This is a game that was on these old Mac computers, and it was probably 2002, 2003.
Okay.
In a computer lab at my elementary school, and when they weren't making us do the typing games that I hated, they would we'd get like free time, and we'd usually crack out this thing. And
Nice.
I remember I sucked at it. It was probably because my parents, and bless them for it, did not give us video games until we were a little bit older. Like I think we got a Game Boy and a PlayStation 2 when I was maybe 10 or 11 years old. Which don't give your 5-year-old kids video games, all right?
Too late for a lot of them.
Yeah. These, let's see.
Does that dinosaur have a gun?
Hey, that's offensive.
Ooh,
Whatever.
I like that.
I'll figure it out again later.
Dun, dun, dun. So I wanted to talk about.
Oh wait, hold on. I need to toggle the camera mode is tab. Okay. See if it actually works, because a lot of them. This is made for a Mac, as you can see.
Are you emulating it on Linux?
No, I'm on Windows.
Oh, okay. That's it.
Are you watching this?
Yes. Well, sort of. I can.
Oh,
I
you know
check
what?
up on this stream every so often.
I need to pull out the other keyboard.
It reminds me of I used to play the Turok games, and those were pretty epic.
Control.
Except you were a Native American guy and you were shooting dinosaurs, but
Shift.
and they didn't
Okay, I don't have any
shatter
other stuff yet.
when they died.
All right, I think I got it. I was
Yeah,
also the slowest typist in my class when I was a kid. You know when I became fast at typing?
When?
When I discovered RuneScape.
Oh.
Over the course of about 3 or 4 months, I went from like, I don't know, 10 words per minute to being able to type pretty
10
good.
words per minute?
Oh, I didn't know where the keys were on. Oh, I didn't know where the keys were on the keyboard. I would have to look every time I did it.
Oh man, my parents made me do typing drills.
Your parents? Oh, that's right. Your parents were kind of. Crap. Can I just hold it down? I can. That's better. That's wasting
Ahead of
my
their
ammo.
time. I don't know.
Your parents were kind of computer people, though. Mine weren't really. Pick it up, damn it.
Right. So, I saw this social media
There we go.
post, and it said, what did it say? It said asking straight men why they find trans women attractive. And then the response was, because they are women. And that's lovely.
That's totally.
But-
That sounds totally real. I'm sure that was real, and they weren't told what to say, and they weren't actors.
Well, the person who made the response had a trans flag on their username, so that might have biased them somewhat. But the thing is, really, is that people are attracted to sex, not gender. I mean, what we call sex is what people used to call gender anyway. But
I got
we
group
pretend that gender is a separate thing now, and that sex is what we were talking about before. But whenever we bring this subject
The
up,
T-Rex's
people
jump in this
talk
game.
about
Oops.
well, not. Let me rephrase, or let me restart. Statistically, people were surveyed, and they would say that, well, the survey found that 3%.
You're still there, right? Did the call get dropped? Crap. I appear to have... Oh, I don't have an egg. Looks like you got disconnected. Let's see what's going on. Oh, there it is.
Sorry,
What
had a
happened?
slight technical interruption.
A technical interruption. Okay.
Anyway,
I was about to check if I lost you on the Discord. Oh, I found
okay,
another one.
sorry.
I'm getting lucky this time. You're good. You're good.
Anyway, so people were polled, and only about 3% of straight people would consider dating a trans person.
Okay.
That's what
That's
they
an
found.
actual honest poll. And that may be inflated as well. And it might depend on what area you're doing the survey in.
I actually have the sources. We'll probably have to put them in post this stream, but we
Okay.
can put them in if
Yeah, I can
people
do that.
want. Gay men sit at a higher value at 12%, and lesbians are the highest at... No, lesbians are not the highest. Lesbians are at 29%, and
What are these percentages?
bisexual, queer... these are percentages of people who would consider dating a trans person. So,
Okay.
bisexual, queer, etc. are the highest at a little over half, but it might be a little bit muddied to have bisexual in there.
If you're gay, but you're not
Because-
super gay.
Yeah. But another interesting thing that they found from this is that a large portion of queer and non-binary people refuse to date other queer and non-binary people. So they
That's
want
interesting.
a more or less normal partner, I suppose. Maybe normal is not the right word,
Oh,
but
that's an offensive epithet right there.
traditionally gendered partner.
Traditionally gendered. They need to make up another word in order to marginalize normal people, like cis.
I do have an example of this in play socially. So I used to go on Reddit, and I'm kind of...
Before you
This
saw
is
the
a little
light
bit
and
embarrassing.
repented.
Yeah, I don't have a Reddit account anymore, but I followed a subreddit called Bit Girls, which admittedly was a soft pornography board that centered around women who were in good shape. And some controversy spawned on this board when, because people were posting trans women onto this board, and people didn't like that, and then the mods had to come through and stifle any wrong opinions. So
We don't need to do that. We need to get rid of wrong opinions. Otherwise, how can, people be right about things?
right. This spawned another subreddit called Actual Fit Girls. And thus you see my point. We also saw a short-lived meme called Super Straight that
That's right.
actually resonated with many people, where basically it was a sexual orientation that excluded trans people. And we also saw super gay and super lesbian.
That's right. So I guess a lot of
people.
A lot of gays weren't super gay in that study.
Yeah, that's true. The majority of them. I think it took off because it describes the vast majority of people, and it also was safe in a way because it came with like an in-group and it was a sexual identity. So, the narrative now is that, you're born with your sexual identity and you can't change it, and
Oh,
therefore
oh, 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 oh.
having one
Crap,
isn't
crap, crap.
a problem. So, um, if you talk about this at all, though, the conversation's sort of tainted because if you point out anything that may be negative or could criticize the movement in any way, um, you inevitably get the you're causing violence and you're causing people to kill themselves with your words. So it's a tough topic to talk about, but luckily for us, we have no black on us yet, so that's good. The mismatch of reality and conceptual boils down to a flawed abstraction, I think. See, when people think about these things, they sort of work through it in their head, and they think, so if one wanted to theoretically change their gender, all they would have to do is change their appearance enough to pass and essentially trick someone of
Kind
their
of like what we were talking about
target
earlier.
group.
As
Yeah,
long as it's a good enough fake, then it's real.
yeah,
Is their kind of philosophy.
yeah, and then they would trick that person into thinking they belong to another biological sex,
Yeah.
and then they would have effectively changed into that category. And therefore, if they can meet those conditions where they would meet those criteria, they would be just the same as anybody else in that group.
There you are.
But the subtraction fails because of a few biological considerations, I believe. One is that I don't know if you can change your hormone, or sorry, your pheromone profile just with like pills, because your cells are still gendered. Your cells still have the sex that they had before. You're just adding hormones into your bloodstream that are causing certain types of cells to proliferate more. So estrogen creates more of a fat layer and it softens your skin, which we see that, and it causes the growth of breasts, but it doesn't shrink your bone structure. And another thing is that eventually most people want to have children. So even if they are unsure or,
Okay.
they're telling themselves that they never will, and maybe they're a young person, and this is a very common sentiment that young people have. Maybe they want the option later on, but
keep hitting
either
the
way.
Windows button on accident.
All of this is pretty harsh to say, but I don't think there's any. You're not doing anyone any favors by sugarcoating reality in an attempt to
these problems are
make
getting worse.
yourself feel good for
in this case and many others. The problems are getting worse by
accepting people,
by us not being willing to talk about
that's
it.
That's my little rant.
You can hear me, right? Oh.
It was so sad.
Can you hear me?
Or did I lose audio? I didn't. I lost Discord. Maybe.
Can you hear me now? Should still... I don't think I edited mine. They didn't create...
I don't know why Discord does this.
This might be it right here.
I can hear you.
You can hear me?
Yeah, I don't know why
Okay.
Discord is like this.
I was like, why does he keep interrupting me? Okay, good. Yeah, Discord's retarded with audio equipment. They like tried to make it cool and like have like their own thing, but they ended up just making it bad. Ah, crap.
It automatically changes audio device while you're using
Yeah,
one.
they ask you if you want to change the audio device. Okay, never mind. I'm just not gonna mess with
Or
this.
it just does it for you. Who knows?
Yep.
Who cares? Not me. I don't care. I don't care about anything ever. I'm a nihilist. You could kill my family and I wouldn't care.
Ah, crap.
I see you're a dinosaur.
I'm gonna die right now.
And you have a gun.
Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up, pick it up.
What's that language that Apple uses now?
Oh. A few years ago they had one called
Swift.
Swift,
It's
yeah.
called Swift. What was it called before?
Oh, it was called Objective-C before. Or
Objective-C.
Objective-C, yeah.
That's
Now
so
they have
weird
Swift,
to
yeah.
like have the complete monopoly over everything, like every single
Yeah,
aspect, all the way
controlling
down to
every
the hardware.
aspect of everything. And it's annoying because, like, it's not compatible with other stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, it's on cap. Oh, no, it's not on caps lock.
Apple's gonna take their ball and go home, and no one else gets to play. Did you die?
Yeah, I died.
Oh, rip.
I'm gonna
So is this
see-
rip written in Objective-C, do you think?
In order to work on Apple?
It had to. Well, you could. It could be written in Basic C, like C, you know, and then ported over. Although they would have a Windows and Linux port probably if it was C. I don't know, or maybe like create.
I am not sure. I would expect on early Macintosh computers they probably ported it over. I bet a lot of these early games were just written in C though. So,
Mm.
okay. So, they're doing something different this time. We have a guest on. A Gaston. A Gaston.
Gaston.
To talk about a couple things that I was talking about with him earlier. And
Oh, the source code for
Word.
Nanosaur's out.
the source
Hello.
code is out. And what's it written
Yeah.
in? Can you tell? Or does it say?
Um,
I can maybe look at it and tell. Maybe it's written in like old. It's written in like assembly. Or
written in
Fortran.
I don't know. There's a bin file. .bin.
Oh,
What's that? Is that a?
it's a
Right.
binary. I think that's what it compiles to. Linux uses those a lot of the time.
It was released to Windows apparently as Nanosaur Extreme.
Okay,
Our guest is
we're
here.
debating how to address each other. Should I just call you Harmless or should I call you something else?
You can just use my name. I don't mind.
Okay.
Unless do you guys have like a no-name policy?
We called each other our names on accident, like in the first episode, and then sort of we just kept we just kept doing it. And
Yeah.
I don't know. We were talking about lately if we should stop doing it, just in case people like want to call our works and try to get us fired or something like that. It'd be hard. It'd be hard to find somebody just by their first name though. But
Yeah.
Anyway, okay. This is Brandon.
Hello.
And we were talking the other day. First, let's start with China. So we mentioned this got brought up earlier. We were talking about oil prices going down, and I mentioned that China is probably largely to credit for that, and not Biden passing some like anti-inflation bill.
Right. Yeah.
Demi.
So
Yeah,
in
or
large
stimmy.
part, I think China has to do a lot with it. Like we can thank China for at least a 5% decrease in global oil prices. Like Texas crude west is down to like $88 a barrel. And that's just because China's not importing like anything right now. Well, they're still importing, but it's drastically reduced from what they've been importing, month to month leading up to where we're at right now.
Okay.
Okay. So why are they no longer importing, would you say?
So they've had two different national crises in China building up since about March and April. One's their banking crisis, and the other is their real estate crisis. So do you want me to go into each of those topics, or just one or the
Yeah.
other?
Yeah. Whichever one you want to first.
Okay.
Okay, we'll do the banking crisis first because that's the one that picked up steam the most and is affecting consumers a lot in China. So in March and in April, around there were a bunch of rural banks, and when I say rural banks, I mean like they were banks that focus on provinces in China to communities and not just big national banks. And so they might not be a big national bank, but they do operate in 20 plus provinces. They have thousands and thousands of people. They have billions of dollars flowing through them. So for all intents and purposes, they're large corporations, but they're called rural banks. They started this thing where they were offering customers in other provinces savings accounts with like a 4.5% return on investment annually. So whereas in an American bank, in my bank, I get like a 0.03% return on investment or like a 0.3% return on investment. So like a 4.5% is insane. That's like stock market levels of investing. So they were picking up all of these customers from different provinces that were buying in and making these savings accounts and putting in their life savings. Now, the problem with this is that in China, if you want to make big withdrawals, usually you have to go to their main branch offices and not just, like a provincial office. And so these people would go to their banks, to their local branches, and they try to make withdrawals and they get the runaround. They try and go onto their websites to try and make withdrawals and they get the runaround. They'd call customer service and they'd get the runaround. And then they started getting notifications that because of criminal activity, their accounts were being locked out. And so they'd get this notification telling them, hey, you have to go to our main office to go and withdraw your funds. And then when they'd go to the main office, their funds would be locked down and they had no access to it. So what was happening was on a bunch of different levels, there were executives that were running away with billions and billions of dollars after making these accounts. There was rampant lending going on between the banks and other companies and corporations, to the point where it was like 150% of a GDP. So what you need to understand is in China, corporate debt, we're not even talking international debt, we're not talking about civilian debt or anything like this, just corporate debt is 150% of GDP in China. Like their debt is insane. And so they have tons of borrowing practices all over the board. And so loads of these businesses would turn to banks and say, hey, we need to borrow money from you.
Oh my gosh, I keep screwing
what
up
can you
my
get for
freaking
us?
window. Sorry.
No, you're fine.
Skimmed.
What can we get for this? And these banks will loan this money. And in America, we have this this practice called reserve banking. Was it like fractional reserve banking, where a
Yeah.
bank has to hold on to 10% of an investor's assets at any given time. That way, if somebody wants to withdraw a large amount of money, a bank can actually supply that. In China, it's far less than 10%. So when these people came to try and withdraw their money, they had already lended it out to somebody else and they couldn't give it out. So that was happening. And then a bunch of executives started running off with the money to the tunes of billions and billions of dollars. I think it was something like $90 billion. And so the Chinese feds get involved, and they shut down the banks and they freeze the assets. So not only are these banks without assets, all the assets that are left on a bunch of different banks are frozen, and so nobody can get to them. And so all these protests start occurring where people are protesting outside of these banks saying, hey, we want our money. And in China, they have like social scores, for people.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And for
Social
COVID,
credit.
yeah, they have social credit. And for COVID, attached to their social credit was a health indicator where, if they were exhibiting symptoms, certain individuals were allowed to change their health indicator to basically red light them and say, hey, they're exhibiting symptoms, they might have COVID, don't allow them into public spaces. And so what happened was when these people started protesting outside of these banks, a load of these banking officials red lighted all of the protesters, basically said you all have COVID, and shut them down from entering any type of public space, any type of office, anything. They couldn't rent hotel rooms, they couldn't do anything. So
Amazing
they
how
had
this
no
kind of
access to
stuff
money.
happens in communist countries all the time.
I know.
It's
It's
called the
crazy just
Internet
talking
of
about it.
Things, actually, where everything's connected through the internet. Okay.
Right?
It's a good
But
thing.
it's
And that's a good thing.
That's a good thing.
yeah, we need our fridges hooked up to this, So like
Yeah.
when
Yeah,
when
we
we
need-
have stuff
oh,
inside of our
gosh.
fridge that gets moldy, it immediately gets sent to like our doctor and say, hey, this person's a health
That's right.
risk.
Yeah. You need like your doorknob and your microwave to have an internet connection. Oh crap.
Hmm.
Okay.
Temperature control on the doorknobs, so they know like
Yeah,
how hot
your
you
AC.
are. So they could be like, if this guy probably has a fever, lock
Yeah.
him out.
Yeah, that's what we need. That's what we need in America.
Mhm.
That's how things would become better in America.
Yep.
Anyway, okay, so
So-
they.
Moving on with the story, what you'd expect next would be like the federal government gets involved. They find out what the scandal is, where the money's going, the criminals that are running away with things, and then they make things right, and the people get their money back. Right? That's the best case scenario.
That's what you'd
Well,
hope,
the feds basically didn't do anything for like 3 months. So this is all happening in March and April, right? So May passes, nothing. June passes, nothing. July comes, and people are still protesting. So imagine going 2 months without any access to your money, right?
Okay.
Crazy. And so in July, it's basically come out and say, hey, we're going to start reimbursing people up to, I think it was 50,000 won on 100,000 won. And they're starting to do these payments. So 50,000 won is something like $3,000, and 100,000 won is something like $15,000. I think it's $7,500 and like $15,000, I think. So if you have, up to $15,000 in your account, then it'll be reimbursed. Well, that sounds great on paper, but are they actually doing it? And so loads of, international news agencies were covering this and interviewing people. And one agency interviewed 30 people that were involved in this, protesters, and only 4 of the 30 people had received any funds at all. 3 of them were fully reimbursed. 1 of them was only partially reimbursed. Okay, and that's only up to like 15,000 USD. So anyone over that amount who invested like a life savings, they're just hosed. Okay, and that goes into the second crisis. So banks are shutting down. There's low confidence in banks. There's rampant lending and borrowing going on. And in the meantime, because people are having their bank accounts frozen, they're borrowing from their family, they're borrowing from friends. They're doing anything that they can to make ends meet. And so that leads to the second crisis that's happening. And this is a lot more recent. So I'll backtrack. So in 2019, 2020, the largest company in China that did real estate, it's called Evergrande, declared bankruptcy. They owned about $1.2 billion in international debt. They had $300 billion in liabilities. And they were just, they weren't making any of their payments. And so a lot of international companies and banking industries and basically international feds were saying they're defaulting on all their loans. And so they were I think they were number 122 on the World Fortune 500 index. And right now, I checked earlier today, their stock is selling for like 12 cents a share.
Oh yeah,
So-
I remember you telling me that. Yeah.
Uh-huh. So basically, they're worthless. A share is worth nothing in that company, even though they're on the Fortune 500.
That's crazy.
And they were they were the number 1 real estate company in China. So this brings us into the housing crisis and the real estate crisis. So for like the last 5 to 10 years, real estate has been one of the number one investments for Chinese individuals, Chinese corporations and whatnot, because, their cities are constantly booming. You always hear about like, new cities, new developments, new stuff happening in China, and like it's
Keep
the
pressing the Windows
fastest.
button on accident.
Yeah.
It's the fastest urbanizing country in the world, and it has the fastest urbanization rate in the world. Loads of people are moving in, and you always hear about Chinese companies, Chinese factories, Chinese production, manufacturing, all this stuff. And so there's a huge real estate market there because, new skyscrapers need to be built, new factories need to be built, new complexes need to be built for rural residents moving into these cities. And so it was always seen that real estate was a major investment opportunity because year over year you could expect anywhere up to double-digit return on your investment, growth of assets. So
Right.
it was so hyped up to the point where there would be full apartment complexes that would be built where not a single room in these complexes would actually have a tenant living there, but it would just be owned because these people had this belief that if I own it today, I can sell it a year from now for 10%, 15% more than what I bought it at,
Is
maybe
that
even more.
how a lot of those Chinese ghost cities were created?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, because it's this giant real estate bubble where these people are like, I can buy into this now, and given enough time, this will become a real city with people living in it, with
Yeah.
factories and
That's so
industry.
interesting.
Yep.
This kind of
So-
stuff happens in these communist countries,
Mhm.
and China has so much money now.
Yeah, they have an insane amount of money, but when you start looking at how much money is there, it's literally just people shuffling it back and forth between each other. Like I talked about, the 150% of their GDP is just corporate debt, like and the banking debt and whatnot. These people are literally just borrowing money from one person and then lending it to the next person and tacking interest rates on that.
Okay,
And
so how
so-
come a
Interesting.
bank can declare you sick?
because because the banking in China is tied to the Fed, and the Fed
Oh,
they had
okay.
a zero COVID policy in China. So
Right.
if you exhibited any symptoms whatsoever, it meant full quarantine, full lockdown. They had a zero tolerance policy,
Okay.
way
I see.
stricter
So
than
they probably
anything we
just
saw in the
sent an
States.
email to a connection and then
No. They didn't even have to send an email to a connection. They could literally pull out their phone on an app, and because they were officials, they could literally red flag somebody.
really.
Now, it turns out that they were red flagging protesters even though they weren't exhibiting symptoms, and so they were committing a crime there, just because they were trying to disperse crowds because they didn't want protesters and they didn't want the attention. But it's a dirty tactic and a dirty policy, but they're abusing a pretty dirty system. People shouldn't be able to just pull out their phone and because they have a job at a bank be able to say this person's not allowed to go out in public anymore. This person's not allowed to rent hotel rooms or step foot in any office anywhere.
That won't
X, Y, Z, and
happen
the
if
other.
we have communism. They won't take advantage of their power and use it for personal gain.
Oh no! I mean, it's all for the betterment of society,
Yeah,
right?
it's for the sake of
you're doing
for
the
sure. Oh my
public a
gosh.
favor here.
I'm on
You
top
need
of
to
a
do your
dinosaur.
fair share.
I'm
That's
riding
that's
on
what
Well,
that
I'm
a
mentality
sure if-
is.
We should give Mark Zuckerberg more power. He really
It's time for us
He
to
really
give
has
the
our
elites
best
more power.
interest.
There was an article titled that one time. I think it was which one was
Bloomberg.
it? Bloomberg? You remember the one I'm talking about? It's time for us to give the elites more power.
Jeez.
That sounds like Bloomberg, yeah.
Yeah.
We already control almost every facet of your life, but why don't you do it willingly too, huh? Make yourselves corporate
Just
slaves.
look at what they did. They helped secure the 2020 election.
Okay, so how does this connect to less imports for
Okay.
oil?
Yeah. So Evergrande goes down. Now, there's a ton of real estate that was supposed to be constructed that had existing contracts made on it, but a bunch of other companies had to pick up these contracts, which means they're delayed in their existing contracts. Everything gets pushed back. And you can imagine how that works. So in order to be able to pick up these contracts, in order to pay off all of this contracting and be able to build these estates, they started selling new contracts for developments that they'd be building in the future that they hadn't started yet, and they started selling these to people. So people start making mortgage payments on developments that haven't even been started yet, but with the promise that this development will be constructed. And then these corporations, these construction companies, would take those mortgage payments and they'd put it towards building the existing real estate. And then on top of the banking crisis, where people aren't be able to access their funds, and they hear about the fact that their mortgage payments are going towards their own, they started basically boycotting it. They said, we're not paying into our mortgage. And so I think it was something like $300 billion in mortgage payments were being held out from these companies. And it caused this huge like shakeup in the industry, where massive complexes, like hundreds of complexes full of thousands of tenants, were just, boycotting their mortgage payments. And so this has caused a widespread national distrust of not only the banks, but of also the corporations and the industries. So people are buying less, they're consuming less, and in general, and China is one of the largest manufacturers in the world. So what happens and with the largest population in the world. So what happens when all of these people start consuming less, they start demanding less, there's less production, basically less across the board of everything, because the people have just lost faith in it. That means China's production, what they're exporting, going down, what they're importing is going down, and because China has all of these factories, they're requiring less oil, less resources, less energy to produce it all. So what we ended up seeing was a 5% reduction in crude oil prices globally, because China's not buying it anymore, because they can't, because people aren't buying in general over there. There's just no confidence in the economy. And I was reading about this about a week ago, but people were speculating that there could be a full Chinese economic collapse within like 4 weeks. And that was, a week ago. So we're looking at 20 days maybe for a full economic collapse. And that's just, that's if the federal government isn't able to reinstill confidence. And so, some things that they've been doing is lowering interest rates. They lowered it down to like 2.75%. Meanwhile, you keep hearing about the United States and the Federal Reserve raising our interest rates. It happens like every month. And we're in a global recession still, with supply chains and whatnot. And so with everyone saying, hey, we need more supply for this, there's supply chain problems, and then China's basically pulling out saying, hey, we're not going to be supporting this industry.
Yeah.
China imports roughly like 1.1 billion tons of iron ore like a year for their steel production. And so far, yeah, they import like 1.1 billion
that's
tons of ore for steel.
How they get ore that's actually like real, or how they get steel beams that are actually real, and not full of like tin or something.
Right.
It's
but what happens when
Chinese construction?
What happens when they're importing all of this ore to make steel, but nobody wants to build anymore because nobody has any faith in the construction companies or the real estate companies?
Yeah. And imagine if China's economy collapsed. Like, there are a bunch of American industries that depend on them.
Oh, it'd be insane.
Well, my gut reaction is because if something like that happened in the United States, probably what the government would do is bail out and start printing money.
And keep using more money that they don't have.
Well, Evergrande would be bailed out by the Fed. Like, that would happen. They wouldn't let the number one construction and real estate company in the entire United States basically default and declare bankruptcy. That wouldn't happen. They'd say they're too big to fail, right?
Right, yeah. We saw it multiple times. So.
Yeah, kind of like investing firms that
Is there a reason that
over.
China's not doing that?
Well, from what... I don't know why they didn't do it with Evergrande, why they didn't shore up Evergrande or even buy Evergrande. Because I can see definitely the CCP buying the largest real estate company and basically saying, hey, we're gonna socialize this now.
Manage it, yeah, you'd think.
Mm-hmm. but the banks are already tied in, and so I think the reason why they're hesitating to support the banks and to support this issue is because when there are at least $500 billion on the line right now with the banking system that would need to be reimbursed. And $500 billion is a huge chunk of GDP. So I think the reason why they don't get involved is because on the one hand, they can keep their GDP and they can reorganize that and put that into areas where they think it's necessary for the growth of the country. Or on the other hand, at the expense of their citizens, or at the other hand, they could lose that massive chunk in order to shore up the debts and the concerns and assuage the concerns and living situations of their citizens. Now, for a communist country, and especially communist countries that are known for causing the deaths of millions of their citizens, like, it's pretty clear what decision they're going to make. You know, making the moral move is not something China is known for, especially when they're committing mass genocide right now against the Uyghurs.
Say they just care more about preserving the country rather than
Oh yeah,
saving
yeah.
the people.
The people can suffer for all they care.
Yeah.
I was reading about the situations of a lot of these people. Like, their life savings is completely locked up without any type of assurance that they'll get anything back. They can't get they can't do anything of themselves because every time they try and protest, they get red lighted by people. Criminals are running off with everything that they own, and what they think they own as well, like what they think they've saved, what they think they've invested, turns out to be a giant Ponzi scheme. So where do people go?
That is interesting. And if China does collapse, that will impact everything in the rest of the world, and it could set off all sorts of political events, like wars that are possibly going to start soon and ones that are currently going on.
You know, one thing that I find really interesting though is lately a lot of we've seen this from conservative news media. They talk about how China is ramping up military aggression and military trainings around Taiwan, that they're doing live fire missile tests and stuff like that and drills. I wonder if China's doing that to try and save face and distract from their economic turmoil at home, right? And they say, look how strong we are, look how imposing we are.
Yeah.
And they're basically putting on the front the Soviet Union did.
Yeah, China's all about that. Lots of posturing. They don't want to look weak. That's a big thing in Asian culture as well. So you'd expect that of them in particular. So it will be interesting to see what happens. I'm always skeptical when people are saying economic collapse in just a couple weeks, but with I don't know, with how the world's been going lately, though, it would just seem like it'd just be Tuesday.
Yeah.
If China collapses yeah.
I know what you mean. The idea that China would collapse or that it would allow its economy to collapse is kind of, they're going to do something. It's nothing good, but they're going to do something.
Yeah, probably.
So
probably
it's kind
more,
of just a wait and see.
More posturing, I assume. More fake stuff and concealing whatever problems are happening. I got pretty far that time. Are you watching the stream, Brandon? I can't.
You're not streaming on Discord, so I'd have to open up your
You'd have to go to my YouTube. I tried to minimize my bandwidth usage. If I was streaming both to Discord and YouTube, then it would be kind of it might make it slow down. Oops.
Yeah,
if you find my YouTube, you'd see it there. I'm playing this old game that we played on these computers they had at my elementary school 20 years ago.
Are you a raptor, a velociraptor with a gun shooting other dinosaurs?
I am. All of those things are things that I am, and I'm very proud of.
This is Nintendo 64 level stuff right here. But with the Doom UI, the original Doom UI.
Yeah. Yeah, it was on this old which Macintosh would that be? I should have looked that up before this so I could sound smart. It was on one of the old Mac computers, the ones that they would have had in the early 2000s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, I need to give it this egg first. So I have to collect these eggs and send them up. I assume the backstory here, I didn't see any backstory, but I assume what's going on is I'm a dinosaur from the future, and I'm collecting eggs and sending them up through this portal to the future or whatever for like a Jurassic Park-esque ordeal.
Nice.
Take the egg. Take the egg. Why won't it take the egg? Is it broken?
I mean,
it's
I
supposed
think
to...
Jurassic Park is a cool idea.
Oh, there it goes. It's freaking glitched.
I'm not gonna let the movie dissuade me from the idea that a theme park full of dinosaurs would be incredibly fun. Because the movie is basically like everything went wrong because a greedy, fat porn addict decided he was gonna mess up the system. If it wasn't for the one guy, then it would have been great.
I think it was about how like they tried to control a force that couldn't be controlled, and then it did what forces that can't be controlled usually do, which is kind of a cool idea. But
But they're just really big lizards.
I agree with you.
Yeah,
though.
I think
And if I was a
they would-
scientist, if I was a scientist there, I would definitely do the same thing. I'd be like, well, we have to do it because it can be done, and so we have to. And it'd be cool.
But in reality, every single staff member would have a very large gun on them,
Yeah.
and if any big dinosaurs got out, they would be
They'd
dealt
probably
with
have a
pretty
kill
quickly.
switch. Yeah.
Yeah.
They'd probably have a
Yeah.
nuke underneath the island.
Or they just like, all right, so we have a new T-Rex. Let's just embed this C4 into its neck and on a switch.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that'd be a
if
good
it goes
idea.
wrong, we can just.
Yeah, just have them all have C4 collars that they set off. If
I mean, if you're super scared of a giant dinosaur tearing things apart, then like,
that's a good
insurance
point
policy.
as well. Like, unless they started reproducing a lot, they still wouldn't be a threat to humans. They would, like the scene from Jurassic Park 2 where it goes through the city eating people. Like
Maybe they'd start selling the meat too.
or like,
they grow back.
if you watched Godzilla, they go into like the sewers. Like, which Godzilla movie was it? Like
the
one with
American
like
one?
the B rank. Yeah, but with like the B rank actors, and so they go down into the subway of New York and they see all the eggs everywhere.
Oh, the recent one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, that had that one guy.
Yeah.
What's his name? I forgot
Was
his
it,
name. He was from Kick-Ass. That was what I knew him from. That one was okay. There was another old Godzilla movie that happened in New
Godzilla.
York. Gojira.
Godzilla.
There's another one based in New York, and it had this kind of dinosaur-looking Godzilla that wasn't very cool. And that was a while ago. I watched that when I was in like elementary school. I swear these T-Rexes can sense me from like a mile away.
It's because they can. They smell your fear. They're alpha predators.
Okay, so the other thing I was saving for when you were on, because you sounded like you knew a fair amount about it. My work. I work at a software company, and it's among the bigger software companies in the world. And just recently, they, like this year, I've been there a couple years, and just this year for the first time, the HR is emailing me and telling me that I have to take this unconscious bias training, and they're gonna have a meeting. They're gonna have a team meeting about it afterwards. Oh, that's actually one hit kill. So I have to do it, or they're trying to make me do it. I haven't done it, and I'm going to tell them no. I'm going to tell them I'm not going to do it, but we're going to see what's going to happen. It's because I've decided I want that to be a pattern in my life. I don't want to bend the knee when they threaten my personal well-being.
I mean, because No, but like unconscious bias is like we're gonna brainwash you into believing that you're a racist. You know,
Yeah, yeah, it's all
you don't
like
realize you're a racist, but you really are a racist. It's
yeah.
like what?
Yeah.
I've seen some of these videos. It's like there's like a like you see two black guys on a street corner and they're like exchanging things discreetly from their pockets and handing each other wads of cash. And then at the end of it, it's like, okay, so go take my stuff to the laundromat and make sure that they get my shirt and my pants. And you're like,
Dude, you had to be discreet about that.
yeah, like, and there's creepy music playing and stuff. And then, like, the takeaway from it is, oh, I'm a bad white person. I judged these black guys. Um,
Well, is there even any evidence that you could change your subconscious
yeah, and that's the
through
thing
your
about it.
conscious?
If,
I don't
if we
know,
have
really.
unconscious bias, which I think that's a made up thing, what are you going to do about
Sure.
unconscious bias? And their message isn't that you can fix it, it's that you just have to be aware of it and have to like feel guilty about it constantly and have methods of coping with it or countering
I
it.
mean, this.
Yeah, like
this
if you get a
just
really
goes back-
bad score, do they just fire you? Or
Oh, whoops.
I
That's
think this
already
just goes back to like the whole microaggression bullcrap idea that they came out with. That it's because of your unconscious bias, it's changing your behavior, and you're microaggressing against people. You know, where they can't
Microaggression-
actually definitively point against actions that you've taken that are overtly racist, but they're just saying like, no, because of your attitude and like the way that you talk and the way that you carry yourself and all this stuff,
Right,
like
it's a
just
question looking for an
off-putting to
answer.
people.
Yeah.
They're looking for they're looking for racists. They're manufacturing
Yeah.
racists
Good.
because
Yeah.
they
No,
can't
here,
find them.
I
in
can
the natural
explain
world.
I can explain microaggressions really well.
Okay.
Microaggression is when you subtly imply something that offends politically correct liberals, not to be confused with hate speech, which is when you say it directly. Yeah, it's like it's a thing like when there's a cultural phenomenon that excludes trans people or whatever, transsexuals. I hate the word trans. They call it a microaggression because you're not doing it directly. Oh crap! You're not doing it directly. Crap! I'm dead. It's something that's kind of built into built into the framework of whatever you were saying, or of like some kind of cultural thing. So a microaggression by indirectly implying that this thing that's against their ideology. So yeah, that's what that is. Unconscious bias. Oh crap. Unconscious bias though is just like, well, all you really need to know about it is that it's a made up thing. It's cultural Marxism, and it's brainwashing that they're trying to feed us. I'm not avoiding it necessarily because I am worried about them convincing me. It's just that I want to protest against their system that they're trying to introduce to us.
Well, and it's pretty obvious, like when you're an actual racist versus somebody that just has, you know, beliefs of what's right and wrong, how people should be treated, and good ethics, good moral standards.
All of
and
my
then,
biases are perfectly conscious. Thank you very much.
You're right. Like it's a lifestyle choice that we choose, not something that like you're not aware of this, but this is how wrong you are about things.
Yeah,
like,
you're just.
No, I'm actually a Christian who upholds my beliefs.
You're a
Right?
racist. You're a racist because you just you're white, and so therefore you're a racist, and so you just have to feel guilty about it. You don't need to do anything. You just need to feel guilty about it and realize that you're bad and your people are bad, and be ashamed of your culture and try to get rid of it as much as possible.
Yeah, lament that you weren't born not white.
Yeah, yeah.
Isn't it a little? I don't know. It's debatable if that should even be your job's role in life. You know,
No, I don't think
it's
companies
like your job shouldn't be policing you. Like they're there to
companies
make money.
companies shouldn't be
It's
doing this at all, because what a company will do on a moral issue is side with whatever the winning team is, whatever maximizes their profits. Oh,
It's
right,
yes.
and
and that's
that
also another thing is that liberals will boycott, but or left-leaning people will boycott, and then
yeah, we often
conservative people will say, "Oh, I'll just look past.
we just
I'll separate the art from the artist." That sort of
yeah,
thing.
we just want to be left alone. I just want to grill. I just want to grill.
I just want to grill.
Yeah,
I
when
think
we probably
this
need to be
leads
doing less
into
of that.
I think this leads into your talking point though of like why is your company trying to police you?
Yeah, I was going to start talking about that. So you were telling me about the ESG. Do you want to talk about that more?
Mm-hmm. So, um, it's not a surprise, but I happen to be a Republican. I'm registered as a
No.
Republican, and I
Oh yeah.
am at caucus meetings at the conventions. And at the most recent convention that I was at, our
I've
state
been told
treasurer
you're a
stood up.
racist and you hate women.
That's a surprise to me because I am very, very heterosexual and I very much like women. So how can I hate them? So does that make me a
It's
misogynist saying that?
Yeah,
I'm-
it's a secret.
Yeah, you have to be
Misogyny.
ashamed of it. If you're straight,
mean,
You have
then you have to
internalized
be ashamed of
misogyny.
it.
I want to
Subconsciously.
marry a woman, so how can I hate something I want to marry? And I want her
You
to
want
be
to
very
some
proud
people do
and
manage that,
Subjugate
to
them
be
and make them
completely
your
fair.
slave.
Yeah, that's
I
right.
want
You
her
want them to be
very
barefoot in the
happy
kitchen.
and
You want her to not
be,
have. You want her to not be a successful career woman and have a job that will fulfill her. That will fulfill her biological imperative in the world.
her biological imperative, I'm sorry, but that's to be a mother, just like my biological imperative is to be a father.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, your
That was what I
biological
was
imperative is
getting
to
at.
make some company money.
Yeah, you make some company money while you're
And
alive,
then you pay lots of taxes.
and then you die, and they replace you. That's your biological imperative, and that's what a
And
woman needs as well. That's what a
your
strong,
life is
independent woman.
fulfilled because of that. Like you have done your duty because you joined the corporate workforce.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. Okay. So anyway,
ESG.
that,
So
Republican
my
convention.
Yep. So our state treasurer stood up at this Republican convention, and he made a grand speech about how great our state was, right, and how good we were financially, economically, about all of our successes that we had that year, and what we had to look forward to. And then he starts changing the topic of what we had to look forward to, right? And he made a point that the state had been a AAA rating as far as borrowing and lending money was concerned for years and years, like the last 100 years, since the first ratings came out. Like we always had top-notch ratings. However, going forward, these ratings were being threatened because of something called the ESG scores. And an ESG score is it's a ranking system, I guess. Not like a ranking system, but it's like a scoring system. ESG stands for environmental, social, and governance, and it's a standard that investors are using. They're applying it to non-financial factors and non-financial markets to basically say, okay, on these points of environmental points, social points, governance points, they are a good place to invest our money, or a good place to borrow money from, to lend money. Basically, a good place for you to do business with.
Yeah, I think I saw the page there, whatever, on the link you sent me, that was talking about them in their business context, and was saying that it's a rating for socially conscious investors.
Yeah, socially conscious investors. That's what it was.
Yeah.
And so you're probably wondering, well, ESG, like, what does that mean? What does environmental mean? Well, it's your greenhouse gas emissions. It's your effect on climate change. Your carbon footprint. Social is your employee relations and diversity quotas. Okay, yeah, that's pretty wild. Governance is your tax strategy, donations and political lobbying, and then
Oh, so if you're
let's see,
donating to the right politicians, then you get a good
yeah.
score.
And get this, governance even includes board diversity and structure. So if your board of trustees or your board of directors or something like that doesn't have um, diversity on it, racial diversity or social diversity,
This game's horrible.
then you get a low score on it. So they're basically saying because you don't meet these liberal expectations of what we want to see, we're not going to invest money in you. We're not going to let you borrow money, and all this other things. And it's affecting, it's affecting my state's ability. So it's on a federal level. Federal as in, a state by state level, not as in national government level. It's affecting Craig because his business is doing these unconscious biases trainings, which is definitely, the employee relations and diversity, that social part
Yeah.
of the ESG.
Yeah.
And I think this is my opinion, but I think this is a way for large corporations that have a lot of money, trillions of dollars of assets that they can lend out, that have power and that have a political agenda, to basically strangle smaller companies, smaller groups that don't have as much power as they do, and make them basically bend the knee to their political ideology,
Yeah.
saying, "Oh, you don't adhere to the same beliefs and standards that I do? Well, tough luck borrowing money for your business. You want to expand? I'm sorry, you can't."
Yeah.
So when you say large corporations,
BlackRock.
yep, that's
Which-
what I was looking for.
Yeah, that was. I
Um,
recalled you naming them specifically, and that's an investing firm.
Yes.
That with like
And-
one of the biggest ones. Them and
Yes.
one other. What's the other one, Jeff? I can't. There are these two investment firms, and they have majority shares. Well, not majority, but very significant shares in almost every big corporation in the U.S. and in the world.
Yep.
And so they have
Vanguard?
Vanguard, I think that was it.
Yeah, Vanguard. That sounds familiar.
They
Vanguard Group, J.P. Morgan Chase, UBS.
J.P. Morgan is one of them.
I believe they're
Is
an
that
investment
investing?
firm.
Oh, I thought that was
I specifically remember Vanguard being mentioned though at this convention, at
probably
the Republican
Vanguard,
convention I went to. So
yeah.
yeah, I
Anyway,
think you're right about that.
Yeah, they own large portions of every big company, and they so they have people on the board who can control this kind of thing, and they are pushing in particular this stuff, if I remember right, and so they can squeeze a bunch of companies, which this, like I mentioned, this hadn't happened in the previous years that I was at this company. It's a new thing, so it's probably because this they're worried about this rating, and so now they've been hiring more diversity experts and having them give HR stuff to do to educate us on how to be less racist and stuff, so that they get a higher score.
Yeah. I mean, but you can imagine that though, because if it is Vanguard and BlackRock that are behind this, and they own massive shares in your company, and all of a sudden they say, "Hey, we want you to institute these policies, otherwise we're going to divest, or we're going to leverage our shares to try and to change your executive leadership." You can imagine how people would say, "Oh, okay, all right, I'll do it."
Bend the knee up. Yeah, and that would lead me to like what is their motive for doing that? These big investment firms like BlackRock and Vanguard. Do they make money from doing this?
I don't know. That's hard to say because they already have basically unfathomable amounts of money. Like when
Yeah.
you're working in the
Yeah,
trillions of
these are
dollars
super rich
annually.
people. They don't have a whole ton of members. These are all super rich people.
Hmm.
And we were talking about this a little earlier. What's the motive behind? What were we specifically talking about? The motive behind pushing all of these social.
Oh, yeah. Well, you brought up breaking apart the family, causing people to be
Oh,
more
Oh
independent.
yeah,
What would the motive
we were
be for
talking
that?
we were talking for a little while about quote unquote toxic masculinity.
oh, and talking like breaking up the family, is that like in reference to the original Black Lives Matter values page? Like,
Oh,
did,
I mentioned Black Lives Matter. There's this
That
really
is a frequently brought up topic, is attacking the nuclear family because, well, by their reasoning, it's a history of an oppressive. It's a
that's
maybe
what
a
they say about
vestigial
everything they
organ of
don't
a
like. Yeah,
oppressive power structure.
yeah.
right?
Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, that the family, and we were talking about like telling men to be more feminine and women to be more masculine,
Oh yeah,
or
where they're
when
emasculating men.
yeah, taking away the identity of I'll say sex rather than gender, and degrading the family, encouraging sexual deviancy, um, and now we'll add this, pushing these kinds of like post-Marxist social ideas. Um,
Well, and you know what's funny about that? Never once have I heard somebody say how happy they were because they didn't have a dad in the home, right? Like, you ever hear
I'm
somebody
glad.
brag on the
I'm
streets like,
I'm
I
glad.
never had a dad around and I'm so happy
I'm
about
glad
that.
I
Like,
didn't have
what's
a
that?
dad to make me a normal person. That's
Yeah,
the
at most you'll hear, "I turned out great,"
Yeah, I turned out
and
Yeah, and
fine. Which the message of that is it's just as good. It's not that it's good. It's
or
that oh, it's fine. Like there's nothing
yeah,
wrong
and
with it.
anytime you hear someone say it's just as good, then
It's
you
probably
know that
not.
it's not as good.
hmm
It's
they're
they're
trying to
trying to
settle for
justify it.
what they,
Yeah.
yeah, they're
Um,
justifying.
and on that point, I said this before, but once again, men in particular who grew up in single parent houses, which it's usually a single mom because it's usually a guy who knocked up a girl and ran away. Um,
Yeah,
Or, well, I mean, the court system favors the
or
mom
or the
anyway,
mom
so
gets
that's true.
custody. Yeah, that's the case often. So they are they have a insanely higher use of drug use rate, and they have an insanely higher rate of crime, and I believe they make up the majority of inmates in prison. So that can
Hmm.
tell you. Maybe they'll say that that's just because of society, because society oppresses them, like they say about everything else. But it's am I already carrying one? No. Um, it's because it messes you up mentally when you're not in a nuclear family like
Hmm.
nature and like God intended. Um, so uh, that's one thing. These people want to tear apart the nuclear family. They want to encourage sexual deviancy. They want to. Um, I think the race thing is they're. It's hard to really put your finger on it, but I think they kind of want racial conflict. They want they're pushing this thing in the media that white people need to be ashamed of themselves, and that minority culture, or black culture in particular, is great, and we need to be more like them. Um, and well, it's probably the main reason is because blacks especially and most other racial minorities are majority Democrat. Um, but more importantly, it's because they've very successfully demoralized them, which we were talking about demoralization earlier, and that's what all of this is part of. If you haven't seen this guy, Yuri Bezmenov on YouTube, this KGB defector, talks about the steps of cultural subversion. Um, the first thing is demoralization, and then destabilization, and then crisis, and then normalization. And that's how you topple an existing system and establish a new one with totalitarian control.
Wow.
So, is that a lot?
I mean, I'm just thinking about the stuff that we've seen. I mean, like,
Yeah, it's
if you
pretty
if you
much
look at the Black
Yeah.
Lives Matter
by
protests
play.
and
Yeah, you
You
see
look
this
at
happening.
the
They want
LGBTQ movement.
What
yeah,
a crazy
all-
coincidence.
What a weird thing that the stuff that happened in the Soviet Union and in the Weimar Republic in Germany is now happening in the U.S. I wonder what the motive is. Yeah, so that's kind of the end game. So without naming names, it's basically rich and powerful people who want to be more rich and powerful. And frankly, let's be honest, the author of it all is the devil himself. He's the one who is their boss. And
Whether
he's
they know it or not.
yeah, I assume a good chunk of them know it, but probably a larger portion of them are
I mean,
just
if
going along with the group.
if you're flying an Epstein's jet, I think you know it.
that you're serving the devil.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's a fair estimation. I think a lot of them actually do worship the devil, like literally. And there was stuff on Epstein's Island, this blue temple. I can't find any reliable sources on this anymore. But at the time, I was reading a lot of stuff and seeing pictures. They had this like statue of Moloch inside that temple, with like a bunch of cult-looking sacrificial
Hold on,
stuff.
a legit statue of Moloch, like
Yeah, I don't want
the
to.
child sacrifice Babylon idol.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
I hope I'm not just repeating like bunk stuff that I read on 4chan or whatever, but I'll just say I've seen this pattern among, we'll say, the left in general, but also these people who you would call, the New World Order, or I don't know, like their master, they have many names. But you see this more and more. Like I saw this thing. Was it this year or last year? There's some poster. Oh, good, just what I needed. A poster, I think, that they were either passing around online or handing out at the Pride stuff. Either this June or June of last year. It said, what was the demon? It was one of those popular demons, Baphomet, I think, which is this.
The goat that has one hand up, and then the other one's like on its.
Yeah, and it has a
something.
thing. It has a thing on its head.
Yeah.
And I think it's like the demon or the god of like blowjobs or something. Of fellatio. That was what I was told. Anyway, it was like Baphomet, and it had like a cartoony picture of Baphomet, and it was like, Baphomet hopes you have a great Pride Month. So I won't go too far with that, but I'll say you'll probably have more and more of that in the future, of them becoming more less reserved about the actual truth, that the devil is the master of all of this stuff.
I have a really hard time believing that they overtly know, or that they're conscious of.
They consciously
aware that-
worship the devil.
Yeah, I have. Of the Christian side of me thinks that if this, I no doubt that this is part of the devil's playbook, but if it's the devil at work here, he's not gonna want people to be aware that, hey, I'm pulling the strings in the background.
That's a
It's
good
going to
point.
want them to think that they're doing this themselves, that they're so clever and witty, like,
That's a
oh,
good
I'm
point.
referencing Babylonian deities, ha ha ha, or I'm listing this devil, I'm going to trigger some Christians,
yeah.
right?
He does, yeah, and I'm sure that's how he gets his foot in the door a lot of the time. Man, it's so hard to get away from them. Okay, here we go. My opinion is the people toward the top of the chain know and are doing it consciously, at least a lot of them, and the people more down toward the bottom are being deceived. And yeah, but yeah, you're right. He wants them to not know that it's him, generally. Drop your thing. We're
Well,
a little past.
Baphomet typically represents balance.
Balance. Is that what they say? Where do you read that? Is that the Wikipedia
Internet.
article?
Nope.
Not the Wikipedia article? No. You have to look pretty hard to find honest analyses of this kind of thing. They'll feed you all sorts of bull crap about oh yeah, it's actually a cool thing. Satanism is it's actually about like following this particular set of standards.
Well, demons typically represent some force that that affects, or some drive that affects people. It's not too different from older polytheistic religions where you'd have multiple gods, and those gods would represent some force that affects humans. So
Is this going back to
older
the idea of like the seven
religions-
great sins, or
Which one am
Well,
I thinking of?
If
The
you're
god
thinking
wine
of
and partying.
Hinduism, Greek mythology, yeah, or Roman, which is pretty much the same thing. Yeah, you're right.
Dionysus would represent, like indulgence, that sort of thing. So demons would represent, they would fill a similar role in Christianity. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I don't know a whole lot about it. I won't claim that I do, but anyway, yeah. So I think it's likely you'll see them. You'll see more of this going on in the future. Satanism being kind of referenced in progressive and liberal stuff. Hey, I'm actually getting pretty far this time. Oh, I skipped an area. Well, I have to finish this one. I have 220 seconds left. Yeah, this is the last one. If I fail this time, we're ending. Anyway. But, I guess bringing it back to where I started on that, I decided that I don't want them to control me. So in the future, when I have a more important job or maybe a more important position in a job, in a company, I don't want to be in the habit of bending the knee to them. Because that's kind of how they propagate. We're just allowing them because we all just want to be left alone and not have our career ruined. But that may not be an option in the future. You may have to be willing to risk yourself in order to fight them.
Well, I think most, quite a few millennials fall into this trap where they will go to school and then they'll rack up debt, and then because they have that debt, they need to get a higher paying job, and in order to keep that job, they're going to have to, flap their hands behind their back, rub their stomach while patting their head, get the heckin' jabberino and do the unconscious bias test, because otherwise, you're in the hole.
Yeah,
You,
the more
well,
the more desperate they are, the
just
more they
start
control
racking
us.
up debts because you'll have a mortgage and a car and all that. I mean,
That
you have a metaphorical ball and chain around your neck. And
Yeah, that's goes back to how I was talking about all these ways that they want to control us, the making us weak and pathetic and dependent on the state. It'll eventually be like China, where like they can turn off your heart rate if you have too low of a social score, and then they get to decide what that social score is predicated on.
right.
Looks like I'm going to run out of time. It looks like I missed an area. I got the last egg, but not the second to last one. Are you still there, Brandon? Did you lose?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, okay.
I'm here.
I wasn't sure if you lost audio or something. Oh, I've got to use... Oh, I didn't get to use it. I got that bomb item, but I didn't use it yet. I have a tendency of saving my good items for the right moment and then never using them.
And it never comes. Yeah, I know that. I know that.
All right. Well...
Skitty-bitty-pop.
Okay. Well, we'll call it good with that. Don't bend the knee to globo homo. Fight them in the streets, fight them in the...
Yep. Every time you
fight them on
comply,
the beaches.
you are enabling. So
Yeah, when you comply, you allow them to advance, and eventually we'll have the Antichrist controlling the system.
Brendan, great to have you on.
Yeah, thanks for
There's-
inviting me to talk about some stuff that I thought was interesting.
Got more people joining the short bus. More people, more passengers of the short bus. Soon we'll have enough for our own special ed wing of the elementary school.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Okay, this will be the bus stop. We'll see you guys next week.